Hello everyone, Nadezhda here, and in previous lesson we have covered how to create room schedules, and before that we have learned how to set up rooms. In this part of the mini course we are going to cover how to create the room tags. We are going to use those rooms that we have previously created and create a new good looking room tag. I will go to my plan. And once I go to the annotate tool, I can either choose room tags or I can choose tag all. If I choose tag all, I can navigate to room tags and I can choose one of the generic ones. I can choose this basic Revit tag and click OK. And we can see it does not look the best. And contrary to that, another option is just tagging tag by tag, going to room tag and then choosing the generic tag and just tagging the entire plan by hand. This is a little bit slower option, but it does allow you to just decide a better placement of the tag. And I'll just tag it with this generic tag, and now it's time to create our own new tag. I go to the File New option and I create a new family. This way we create a new family that we will be using for room tags. And I will go back one step to find the English template because that one is in metric. Of course, if you are working in inches, you stay in the previous one. I go to the annotation options and I choose the room tag option. I click open and the first thing I do, I save my file. I usually do that because I do want to avoid accidentally importing file named family2 into my project, because obviously that is very confusing, especially if you have more file. So I do save as family. I pick where I want to save it and I will simply call it the room tag exercise. Of course, when you are naming your file, you do want to name them in a way you will understand them, but to me this is only the tutorial exercise. So I go to the label option, and what label does is it allows us to create a label from the parameter, basically to take any of the parameters we have in the model and to tag that parameter. So I pick label and I click somewhere in the middle of my project. And now I have the list of parameters that I can choose in the room tags. I just pick what I want to represent on my tag and just click this arrow. I will choose number now and I can add it prefix or suffix, and I can also change the sample value. But sample value is just something you see in the family. Once you load this tag into project, it will be reading this parameter. So it's not important part of the tag. So once I've done all that, I click OK. And now I have this number here. I can go to edit type of the label to change the font and to change the overall appearance of it. I click on rename and let's call it, for example, 2.5 millimeters Arial Narrow. You have probably noticed that in most of these tutorials I do use Arial Narrow, and I use Arial Narrow because it's very compact, it's very thin, and basically it takes up the least space. So I always use it, and I always give that suggestion to people, because once you're tagging either rooms or elements, you do want to choose the fonts that take up the least amount of space, because obviously the more complex your project is, the more tags it's going to have. So basically you do not want to have some giant font that takes up half of your plan. You do want to have the font that takes up as least space as possible. So once I have chosen this, I click OK. And I will also update the text size. I can choose whether I want it to be bold, italic or underline, and I can change the width factor, but I don't usually change the width factor. Actually, I try to keep my fonts original. There is also the option of color, and let's say, for example, we will just add some random color here. We have line weight, which is actually the weight of the border, and this part is actually kind of important because usually I change it to transparent, because if I leave it to be opaque, the tag will always have that white stripe behind the text, and that actually can look very ugly, especially if you have color schemes on, which will be the topic of the next lesson, because It creates just this white fill, white background, and sometimes it can be useful, for example, in the places where your text is unreadable with just text, but most of the time I do turn it to be transparent. I can either have the border in this option that says show the border. I will turn it off now, and I can also have this offset from the border off leader. I will keep that to be the default, and I click OK. And now this is what my number looks like. Other than number, I do want to have, for example, the area, and I will go to label option, click below the number, and I will add the area. I'll go to OK, and I will keep it to be the same font. I will just separate them a little bit, and I can actually make it to be a little bit central, because once I'm placing this tag, essentially the central point of these reference planes will be something that is actually the reference of the tag where we are placing it. So I find it the easiest to just keep everything central so my tag does not go away from my mouse once I'm placing this tag. Once I've done that, I will also just add the name. I can just go again to label, I will go to edit type, and I will duplicate this text, making it, for example, 2.5 millimeters, Arial, narrow, bold. I just want to make some difference between these tags. I will turn this back to black, and I will also click the option bold. I will just turn this to Arial narrow. I have turned it to the regular Arial, and click OK. So I pick name, I just pull it to the right side and click OK. I will also go to the option of edit type, and I will also show border. I will also make the leader border option a little bit smaller so it's not too far away from my text, so it takes up a least amount of space. And I will also turn these to Arial narrow because I also have created the regular Arial, and click OK. So this is what we have. Now we just turn it around a little bit, just make sure all of this is actually central. And what's important here is how far away these borders go. As you can see, once I'm moving it, the more border shows up, and this means essentially that this will be the maximum length of your name. So if you have, for example, a room that has, for example, 3 words that is very long, if this is your border, basically each new word will go to the different row. And we don't want that. We want the border that kind of allows us a little bit longer name. So I will just make sure that this is somewhere around here. And if I can see that not all my words fit in, I can later edit it and add it. Once we have created this, we go to load into project. And now we can select all of these tags. I will just right click on one tag and choose select instances in entire project option. And I will simply, instead of this default one, choose this one. And this is what it looks like. As you can see, it looks a lot better. It does need some changing because it is a much higher tag. The previous one only had 2 rows and this one has several rows, so it's taking up more space. And this is how pretty much all the tags work. Essentially, you just create labels, you edit the fonts, you edit the colors, text, etc. And you can create many types of tag you want. They have limitless options. And this is it for this lesson. In the next lesson we cover the color schemes and we are going to create the colorful plan from these rooms. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye! If you want to learn Revit like a pro, take a look at my architectural course through the link below. You will learn how to develop the project from concept to final design using Autodesk Revit. It is ideal for beginners but valuable for anyone looking to build a solid foundation. By the end, you'll know how to take a design from concept to detailed documentation with confidence and clarity. You will gain a solid Revit workflow you can actually use independently or in work in larger teams in architectural studios. With almost 100 structured structured video lessons, it is designed to help beginners master Revit step by step. To support your progress, I've included assignments with each lesson, plus the opportunity to ask questions and receive guidance directly from me whenever you need it. This way, you're not just watching tutorials, you're actively learning, practicing, and improving every step of the way. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.